So I thought, yeah, I should have been exploring this Christianity thing all along. So I bought a Bible. Now, because I'm Protestant South, I know that's what you do, after you say your prayer, you buy a Bible. So I was like, all right, I'll get a Bible. Now, you have to understand, my ignorance, as in so many cases, was largely due to pride. I did, to their credit, I had some university classes where they tried to expose me to the Bible as cultural literature, but I was really into this idea that we live in a post-Christian culture, and so we don't need to read the Bible anymore, even as literature. So I was as ignorant of Scripture as you could possibly be and live in modern America. And every now and then when I was a kid, maybe even sometimes here in North Dakota, I would spend the night at a friend's house, and my parents were not morning people, so if the kids were going to church, my parents were like, we might be atheists, but we are not getting up early so that they can drop you home before they go to church, so just go to church with them. So I'd been to a few Sunday school services, and so my impression of the Bible was like, there were fishermen, and we sang songs about sheep and stuff. I really wasn't sure what to expect. But so I figured Jesus. I can't believe I'm admitting this. I did not understand the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. So I figured, okay, this is Jesus's book. So he probably comes in on page 40, 50. Because you want to lead up to it. Probably don't put him there on page 1. So I open the Old Testament, and I'm like, hey, where are the sheep in the songs about fishermen? And I'm in Leviticus what is whoa? And Joe would come home from work, complaining about a problem, and I'd be like, Joe, have you tried killing a bird over a clay pot and dipping red yarn and hyssop in its blood? And he just looked at me, and I'd be like, it's in the Bible, I'm reading about it. So Joe finally clued me in. He said, you've got to stop. You've got to get to the New Testament. It's all going to make sense when you get there. So then, okay, so finally we have some talk about Jesus in the New Testament. Now, okay, I feel like we're going. So I read the whole New Testament, and it was amazing. It was, I could give a whole talk just on how it was different than what I would have expected. It was incredible to immerse myself in these scriptures. But I was still very confused, maybe more confused than before I read it, because this is going to sound silly, but I'm being very serious when I say I expected what in sales they call a call to action at the end. Get to Revelation, wow, ooh, okay. And then the book just ends. And I thought, so what do I do now? And I didn't want to go to an external source, because I thought, well, surely we need to just trust the Bible and not, what other people are telling us to do. And the other thing that was confusing is I did not see a clear case for the traditional Christian moral code. For example, I would say, I think I heard that Christians are against abortion and euthanasia. And I would look in the Bible, and it wasn't clear to me. And so then, the internet nerd that I am, so I'd go online and I'd Google, and I would see forums where people would say, oh yes, absolutely, Scripture is totally against euthanasia, and if you look at these verses, that's going to pretty much show you that it's right. But then the next person down the thread would be like, oh no, Christianity says it's fine in some cases, depending on the circumstances, so here are some other scriptures. And when I would ask the few religious people I knew, how do you know which one's right? They'd say, you have to study the scriptures and, read them in accordance with one another. And I thought, I have a 1-year-old. I'd love to study the scriptures, but are you telling me that you have to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the Bible in order to get the most basic questions answered? I would love to, but I thought, I don't have time to become a scripture scholar. And then some things that were kind of clear, but I wasn't sure if Jesus was talking to the people in that time and place or talking to us, because I get to the part where, he tells the rich man that you have to give up everything if you want to follow me. And I'm looking at my laptop everything. And so I would ask Christians, do I have to, garage sale? How do I go about this? And they'd say, oh, no, don't worry. He was just talking to that one guy. But then I'd keep reading, and then we have the lesson for Mary and Martha, and they'd be like, oh, no, the focusing on the Lord instead of little tasks, no, that's for everyone. And I'd be like, do you guys have an appendix? Because like my version doesn't have one. I do not understand where you are getting these interpretations. And so Joe, like a good Protestant, was like, you need to buy a concordance. That's what's gonna, or a biblical encyclopedia. That's gonna, make it all make sense. And I was like, but if the writers of the concordance weren't inspired, by God, then why should I listen to them? That doesn't seem to make sense. And then the other thing I started to think about was widespread literacy is a brand new phenomenon in human history. I mean, if you look at the history of the world, and even a lot of places today, most people cannot read. And so I told Joe, I said, the system you're giving me of I spend hours and hours studying the scripture and then looking at the concordance and the encyclopedia, I was like, it doesn't work if you have a job or, can't read. And the other thing is it requires the printing press. The printing press was invented in the 16th century. Before that, the average family probably could not even have a Bible, let alone a bunch of supporting documents. And so the question boiled down to paraphrase from the title of a Mark Shea book, which I highly recommend, it was very convincing to Joe, by what authority? Authority. I had all of these Christians making all of these claims about how to interpret the Bible and what the Christian moral code is. But I don't think I could have articulated it this succinctly, but I kept saying, by what authority? What gives you the authority to say that we interpret this verse this way and we interpret this verse that way? I was completely confused. So doing what people like me do, I started a blog in a very modern turn of events. And for those of you who aren't familiar with blogs, it's just a website that's easy to update. But the distinguishing feature is that it has, at the end of each little post that you write, there is a comments form where people can respond and you can have dialogues. And that's the big difference between a blog and other types of online media. So I didn't have any readers, and so I decided to recruit readers. And I knew just where I'd go. There was a website called The Raving Atheist, very aptly named. I cannot even hint at some of the things that this man would say about Christians. The hatred that he had for people of the faith was palpable. And I was aware of the site because he was the biggest atheist blogger at the time. But I noticed that he had this following of Christians who did an excellent job of responding to even his most hateful posts. And the other people in the comments, I mean, these Christians they did an amazing job of addressing atheist arguments. And one thing is they did it with charity and with peace. And I thought, man, if someone had said that to me, you can't even imagine what I would have responded with. And I saw these Christians, and there was this sense of, man, I want what they have, like that. I mean, that's superhuman, the way that they're able to deal with these people. But most importantly, at the time anyway, was that they could demolish atheist arguments. And one interesting thing is I recruited, I think, 6 people to come answer questions on my blog. I would find out later 5 of them were Catholic, these people that I had specifically identified as being able to demolish atheist arguments. And there were other people on there, but the ones that I picked out were all Catholic. So I had these Catholics reading my blog, and at the time I'm not sure if I even understood that they were Catholic. And so I started talking about these problems that I was having with Scripture. And so they told me a very interesting theory. They said, what if when God inspired the writers of the Bible, fallible people who make mistakes, but he inspires them to convey infallible truth? They said, what if he didn't stop doing that after the Bible was written? What if he kept doing that in a church that he founded with his own authority? And what if it is still around to this day?